warm welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Cycle on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Jumai Manson. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Now the news in full. President Bola Tinubu has assured residents of Oyo State that security agencies are intensifying efforts to rescue victims abducted by gunmen in Isele community, Orire local government area of the state. While condemning the reported killing of one of the kidnapped teachers, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in a statement issued by Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, said the federal government was collaborating closely with the Oyo State government and security agencies to ensure the safe return of all victims. He described the killing as barbaric and vowed that the perpetrators and their local collaborators will be tracked down and made to face the full weight of the law. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Wadid Shaibu, says the Nigerian Army has established new brigades, battalions, and operational units across 6 states as part of efforts to strengthen security operations and improve rapid response to emerging threats nationwide. He made this known during the opening ceremony of the Chief of Army Staff Biannual Conference 2026 held in Abuja, stating that the new formations were created to enhance the Army's operational posture, expand military presence in versatile areas, and improve responses to security challenges across the country. Lieutenant General Shaibu noted that the Army has continued to sustain and enhance operational posture through troop deployment, restructuring of formations, and the establishment of additional joint task force units in strategic locations. Over now to the Federal High Court in Abuja has granted bail to former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai in the sum of 100 million naira with one surety in like amount. Delivering the ruling, Justice Joyce Abdul Malik stated that the surety must reside in either Maitama or Asokoro district of Abuja and is required to deposit the original certificate of occupancy of a landed property at the court registry. And the court further directed that the surety must be a federal civil servant, not below grade level 17, and provide evidence of salary payments for at least 3 months. The documents are to be authenticated by a letter from the surety's bank manager within the court's jurisdiction. The Federal High Court in Abuja has fixed May 26, 2026 for judgment in a suit challenging the eligibility of former President Goodluck Jonathan to contest the 2027 presidential election. Justice Peter Lifu announced the date after all parties adopted their final written addresses in the matter. The suit was instituted by an Abuja-based lawyer seeking the court's interpretation of constitutional provisions on presidential tenure limits and a determination of whether Jonathan remains qualified to run for office again. The All Progressive Congress, APC, has released the list of senatorial aspirants not cleared to participate in the forthcoming Senate primary elections. The list was made public in a statement issued by the party's National Publicity Secretary, Felix Morka. The Federal Capital Territory Administration has raised the alarm over what it described as a growing involvement of beggars and destitute persons in criminal networks, particularly in the transportation of illicit drugs across Abuja. The Secretary of the FCT Command and Control Center, Peter Olumuji, made this known during the ongoing enforcement exercise tagged Operation Sweep, saying security intelligence indicated that vulnerable persons were being deliberately exploited by criminal elements. Olumuji said street beggars and persons with disabilities were increasingly being used as couriers for illegal substances, especially at night. Meanwhile, Nigeria's war against drug abuse and illicit trafficking has received a major international boost as the European Union, United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, and Economic Community of West African States pledged stronger support for the community's new 5-year drug control strategy. The commitment came at the opening of the National Drug Control Master Plan Consultative Forum in Abuja. Kikenlomo Okere has details.
Chairman and the Chief Executive Officer of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Brigadier General Buba Marwa, retired, says Nigeria cannot afford to relax in the fight against drug abuse and trafficking as criminal networks become more sophisticated and dangerous. The NDLA boss warns that projection shows drug use across Africa could rise sharply by 2030, with West Africa still serving as a major transit corridor for cocaine and other illicit substances. Mara says the new National Drug Control Master Plan for 2026 to 2030 will focus on dismantling trafficking networks, tackling synthetic drug abuse, and addressing the socio-economic conditions fueling the illicit drug.
A first of its kind initiative in Africa, ensuring that we tackle the root causes of illicit drug cultivation with sustainable alternatives.
Minister of State for Education, Suaiba Ahmed, commended the NDLA for its sustained crackdown on drug abuse and trafficking across the country. She called for a holistic approach involving education, healthcare, community engagement, and rehabilitation programs to address the root causes of the substance abuse.
Of a comprehensive and effective National Drug Control Master Plan reflects our collective determination to safeguard the future of our country and protect the well-being of our citizens.
The European Union described drug trafficking as a transnational threat requiring collective action, while the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime warns that the rise of synthetic drug and digital trafficking network poses fresh global security concern.
Think together, we can turn the master plan into tangible progress, saving lives, secure communities, and fostering a healthier, safer future for Nigeria, for West Africa, for the African continent, for Europe, for the world.
As we look ahead, we see this master plan as an opportunity to deepen impact, to strengthen data systems, to reinforce institutions across all levels of governance, and to ensure that the response are people-centered.
The Economic Community of West African States also praised Nigerian leadership role in regional drug control efforts, assuring the country of continued support in implementing the new master plan.
The Nigerian master plan is so important to the ECOWAS Commission because it is out of it that we generate some of the contents for some of our member states. So
the new strategy is expected to strengthen prevention, enforcement, rehabilitation, and regional cooperation in the ongoing fight against illicit drugs. Kikenlomo Okere, Global TV News.
Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, has warned political appointees against interfering in the daily operations of ministries, departments, and agencies, insisting that board members are strictly for policy direction and oversight. Akume gave the warning at a high-level cooperative governance training for government appointees in Abuja. Political correspondent Ubong Usoro was there for Global Television.
Top government officials, board chairmen, commissioners, and chief executives converged in Abuja for the Strategic Capacity Building Program, organized by the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation in collaboration with the Bureau of Public Service Reforms and the Konrad Adenauer Stifel. Addressing participants, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, drew a clear line between governance and administration, stressing that board members must not take over the responsibility of chief executives or management teams. He urged appointees to work together in the national interest, upholding transparency and strengthening institutional discipline across government establishments.
The observed poor and unhealthy relationships existing between governing boards and their chief executive officers have become very worrisome to the government and are totally unacceptable. This could be avoided.
Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Atiku Bagudu, says Nigeria's ambition of building a $11 trillion economy by 2050 will depend heavily on visionary leadership, accountability, and efficient institutions. He noted that strong corporate governance remains critical to driving reforms, boosting investor confidence, and accelerating national development.
In one way or the other, members of the government who are doing a similar function, there are those elements of governance that unite us.
Director General of the Bureau of Public Service Reforms, Danzuki Ibrahim Arabi, said the training is designed to equip appointees with the knowledge required to drive reforms, improve service delivery, and deepen accountability in public institutions.
As the CEOs, board members, commissioners entrusted with strategic leadership roles in institutions that deliver critical services to Nigerians and shape the implementation of national policies, your decisions, conduct, and performance directly influence citizens' trust in government and the credibility of public institutions.
The training is part of ongoing efforts to reposition the public service through institutional reforms, improve governance standard, and sustain capacity development for effective service delivery. Ubong Usoro, Global TV News.
The Minister of Education, Tunji Alausa, says about 80% of donor funding for education of the past decade was directed to the Northwest and Northeast, even though the two zones continue to record the lowest literary and numeric outcomes in the country. He made the disclosure during a special roundtable session at the Education World Forum in London, United Kingdom, where he met with global education stakeholders and ministers to discuss Nigeria's fundamental learning reforms. A statement signed by his media aide, Ihero Atta, says the minister stated that the federal government now relies on improved data systems to better guide resource allocation and education planning across the country, noting that previous funding patterns had not produced the desired learning outcomes. Age falsification has remained a growing social concern in Nigeria, with many people altering their real ages for reasons ranging from employment opportunities to marriage and career advancement. While some see it as a survival strategy in a highly competitive society, others believe it undermines integrity and credibility. Abuja correspondent Zara Nasser examines the trend and its implications. The report.
Age falsification is a deliberate act of misinterpreting one's age individually to gain privilege, status, or economic advantages.
Across different sectors of society, age falsification continues to thrive as many Nigerians adjust their ages to fit into expectations, beat restrictions, or gain advantages. For some, it is about securing jobs with age limits. For others, it is tied to marriage, social acceptance, or prolonging career opportunities. Experts say the practice, popularly known as age cheating, may appear beneficial in the short term, but often creates legal, ethical, and professional consequences in the long run. Some residents who spoke with Global TV believe the trend is especially common among women due to societal pressures surrounding age and marriage.
And once you are past certain age, they feel that you are not attractive or marketable and all of that.
Everybody is reducing age based on their own way of understanding and maybe experience.
Others, however, insist that men are equally involved, particularly in official settings where documents are altered to secure promotions, remain in service longer, or access opportunities unfairly.
If you are looking for a job, they will tell you that from the age of 18 to 28, or from this social age to this social age, of which, before you even graduate from school, you have already allowed.
Actually, it depends. It depends on what the person is looking for. Maybe trying to achieve it, and it looks like age have already passed him, and for him to achieve that, they will look at his age.
Findings shows that economic hardship, unemployment, competition and fear of missing opportunities continue to fuel the practice across different sectors. Despite growing awareness about the dangers of falsifying records, many Nigerians still see it as a means of survival in an increasingly demanding society. Zahra Unasr, Global TV News.
You are watching the live broadcast of News Cycle. News Cycle continues after this weather forecast, plus business, foreign and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us.
Thank you for joining us. Satellite imagery this evening shows active storm system developing along the eastern flank of the country, and these are expected to drift westward by Tuesday morning, bringing rainfall and thunderstorms to parts of the central and the southern half of the country. In the early hours of the day, there are also chances of morning thunderstorms over southern parts of Yobe, Jigawa, Taraba, and Adamawa states. As we move into the afternoon and evening period, increased moisture and atmospheric energy are expected to enhance more thunderstorms activities. Areas likely to be affected include parts of the northeast, Sokoto, Kebbi, some parts of the north-central region, and several locations around the southern half of the country. Residents in affected areas are advised to stay alert for strong winds, heavy rainfall, and possible localized flooding. That's your weather update. Stay safe, and thank you for joining us.
You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is News Cycle on Global Television. Thank you for staying with us. In business now, the Central Bank of Nigeria says 63.3% of Nigerians want interest rates reduced ahead of the Monetary Policy Committee meeting scheduled for May 19th and 20th, 2026. The report indicates that 26.0% of respondents wanted interest rates retained at current levels, while 10.7% supported a further rate hike. The development comes as the Monetary Policy Committee prepares to take another decision on the monetary policy rate amid concerns over inflation, exchange rate pressures, insecurity, and rising energy costs. The Debt Management Office, DMO, has auctioned 600 billion naira reopened federal government bonds with elevated yield as high as 22.60%. On behalf of the federal government of Nigeria, the agency is rolling out two previously issued instruments carrying coupon rates of 22.60% and 16.204.99%, with settlement due May 20th, 2026. The bonds offer semi-annual interest payments and bullet repayments at maturity, positioning the sale as a strategic reopening across the two key tenor bucket, 10-year and 20-year. The Federation Account Allocation Committee, FAAC, has started receiving the full proceeds from Nigeria's Production Sharing Contract, PSC, all revenues following the implementation of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's Executive Order 9 of 2026. Fiscal reports indicate that the Federation has been receiving 100% of PSC profits since February 2026, marking a major departure from the revenue sharing structure previously operated under the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA. The policy shift follows compliance by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited with the presidential directive aimed at improving fiscal transparency and boosting government revenues from the oil and gas sector. On the foreign scene, the United States military's Africa Command, AFRICOM, says it has carried out additional airstrikes against ISIS fighters in northeastern Nigeria in coordination with the Nigerian government. United States President Donald Trump first made the announcement in a social media post without disclosing when or where the joint Nigerian U.S. military operation happened. The U.S. attack in coordination with Nigeria came 2 days after the president of both countries announced the killing of Abdullah al-Maliki, described as the second in command of ISIL. Iran says it has submitted a response to the latest United States proposal to end the war via mediator Pakistan. This is coming after United States President Donald Trump warned that the clock is ticking for a peace deal to be reached. As Israeli attacks on Lebanon continue, the Israeli Navy has started intercepting and capturing vessels from aid-carrying flotilla aiming to break the blockade of the Gaza Strip. Fresh cracks are emerging within Britain's ruling Labour Party as former Health Secretary Wes Streeting throws his weight behind a future return of the United Kingdom to the European Union. The move comes amid growing pressure on Prime Minister Keir Starmer following Labour's poor showing in recent local elections. Mukhtar Qasim reports.
Political tensions are deepening inside Britain's Labour Party after former Health Secretary Wes Streeting signalled interest in the party's top job while calling for renewed alignment with Europe. Streeting, who recently stepped down from the cabinet, says Britain must begin rebuilding strategic and economic ties with the European Union years after Brexit ended the country's membership of the bloc.
We need a new special relationship with the EU because Britain's future lies with Europe and one day, back in the European Union.
Streeting says the United Kingdom can no longer afford political isolation, insisting that stronger cooperation with Europe is critical to economic recovery, trade growth, and global competitiveness. His comments are already stirring fresh debate within Labour, where divisions over Brexit continue to shape the party's political direction and future electoral strategy.
In 2026, the British people increasingly see that in a dangerous world we must club together, both to rebuild our economy and trade and improve our defence against the shared threats from Russian aggression and the retreat of America first. The biggest economic opportunity we have is on our doorstep.
The development comes as British Prime Minister Keir Starmer faces mounting criticism after Labour suffered significant setbacks in recent local elections, raising new questions over the party's leadership ahead of the next general election. Mukhtar Qasim, Global TV News.
In sports news now, 3 times champions Nigeria will discover their opponents for the 2027 African Cup of Nations qualifiers on Tuesday when the Confederation of African Football conducts a draw for the tournament to be jointly hosted by Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda. The qualifying draw will be held at the headquarters of the Egyptian Football Association in Cairo ahead of the finals, which are scheduled to take place from June 19th to July 17, 2027. Tagged AFCON Pamoja 2027, it will be the first edition in the competition's history to be co-hosted by 3 countries. Nigeria's women's national under-17 football team will depart for Abidjan on Wednesday ahead of the 2026 FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup qualifying first leg clash against Guinea. The encounter is scheduled for Saturday in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, while the return leg will take place at the Remo Star Stadium in Ikenne on May 30th. Coach Hakeem Basari's side has been camping in Ikenne as part of preparations for the qualifiers and recently defeated Lakeside Queens 5-0 in a friendly match. 36 players are currently in camp with the squad expected to be reduced before departure. Jose Mourinho is set for a sensational return to Real Madrid after reportedly reaching a verbal agreement to take over as manager. According to multiple reports, Fabrizio Romano says on X that Mourinho is expected to travel to Madrid following Real Madrid's final La Liga fixture against Athletic Bilbao, where final procedural steps will be completed before an official announcement. The Portuguese coach, widely known as the one understood to have agreed terms on an initial 2-year deal while with the Spanish Giants, pending the completion and signing of a formal document. And that's it on News Cycle. A quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365. 5. In Star Times, channel 276. Now kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen by using @Global TV NG. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching. Good evening.